This is KLEAN Radio.
Welcome, everybody out there listening to KLEAN Radio on all our many stations out there. I'm in the studio tonight with my co-host with the most, Andrew Spanswick.
When are you going to say the least sometime, then I'll be like, what's going on?
Okay, my co-host with the least, the amazingly talented Andrew Spanswick, who's been in the industry of helping people for a little over 22 years.
Yeah, don't age me that much.
I like to give the stats and the facts, only the facts. But I'd like to welcome everybody out there and go to KLEANradio.com and you can watch our live stream. And anybody out there listening on our live stream tonight or watching our live stream tonight, if you notice a difference while you're watching this live stream and you email Brian at cleancenter.com, that's Brian at cleancenter.com.
B-R-Y-A-N.
And that's B-R-Y-A-N, and you notice what it is, we will gladly send you, let's think, what's a good sober movie? Clean and Sober, maybe?
It's kind of old.
Yeah, but a current one? It's there haven't been that many made.
Yeah, it's been a while, actually.
So you have a choice between Clean and Sober and The Days of Wine and Roses, and we'll email you a copy of that via iTunes.
Which would you pick?
I would probably pick the Clean and Sober. The Days of Wine and Roses is probably the best movie depiction of what alcoholism.
What was the one with what's his name? The guy. I can't remember.
That really limited it.
What about The Warrior?
The Warrior, that was good.
The Warrior. I'm not familiar with it.
Awesome.
I will. Okay, so you know what? You have a choice of 3 different movies.
Why don't they pick a movie that?
Or
they
you
want?
could pick a movie that's acceptable.
Obviously, we're not a film review.
That's acceptable.
I can't remember who's in anything.
And we have an amazing show tonight. If you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio, and the number here is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. I wanted to talk about a couple things tonight, but the first thing I wanted to talk about was I knew somebody very well last week, and he overdosed, and he died. He was very young. He was about 31 years old. I was very close to him when I was younger, and I knew his family very well. One of the nicest, sweetest people you ever meet, handsome, and he died. And, I got this Facebook message from somebody going, "Did you hear what happened to so-and-so?" And I go, "Oh, God." Mm-hmm. Because right away I know what that means. Right. And I saw he had posted the day before. And that's the thing, Andrew. It's like one shot and you're done.
Yeah, people don't realize how thin that line can be. And, I always say most people that are doing drugs at that level, though, are someone suicidal to begin with.
Yeah.
And it's really just an issue of, whether they're going to realize that there's something on the other side or whether they're going to, accidentally overdose. Or purposefully overdose, which we see as well.
So if you or somebody out there is going through this, don't wait to the end of the show to call. A lot of times we get people that wait to the end, sometimes out of fear. Give us a call right now and let us know how we can help you, because I don't want that to happen to you. And we'll do whatever we can to get you the help it is you need. So please, I beg of you, give us a call. It's 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Sadly, it happens a lot, and people think we're immune from it somehow because, this is but we have friends that this happens to a lot.
Yeah, just being in the industry, it's tough, yeah. We have so many clients, and it just seems like, and a lot of the people we haven't even treated, we just know them through other people that we happen to know that we've treated. So, but it's sad, and it keeps happening. And my mom was talking to us on the way on our little trip there, and she was talking about how they're giving out, was it naltrexone? Naltrexone, sorry, gosh, I'm really a little out of it today. So naltrexone, and they have a new nasal spray one. So for those that don't know what it is, may know the name but don't know what it is, it's actually, if you overdose on heroin, you can take this nasal spray and it stops the effects of heroin almost instantaneously. It stops you from overdosing. And my mom was like, I think this is terrible, or potentially this is bad because people will think they can do as much as they want. And I was like, yeah, but, at the same point, it might save lives. So,
although I see your mom's point of view, though.
Yeah.
Because how many addicts, how many alcoholics.
What I think it's more likely to do? I think it's more like people who are already taking heroin are more likely to be more reckless and do more, like trying to get higher.
Right.
and then thinking that somehow they're going to be okay no matter
Now
what.
they're using naltrexone for alcohol as well as
Right.
anti-craving.
yeah,
correct?
and a craving drug.
And by the way, if you're unfamiliar with that voice, it's Angela Pugh, one of the best interventionists in the United States of America, and one of the very few
You're
that I
so
trust. And that is your voicemail message. And
she was a biker, but she retired from that life.
Former biker, and she's just an amazing interventionist, and an interventionist that cares. So
She's not as scary as she sounds.
yeah, and
Wow, I didn't know it sounded scary. Great.
that's Andrew's problem with women. They just all sound scary.
A little PTSD there.
But
I wanted to say what you were saying about having some sort of suicidal thing when you're partying to that degree. And that's something I think is really interesting when people think that there's some element of choice in this, because I used to always say that with my drinking. Like, do you think I would choose to commit suicide in the most slow, painful manner possible over such an extended period of time? Like I wouldn't choose that. But yeah, it's interesting when people think it's all about your willpower.
So
Well,
if you,
I think the part of it is that for those that don't drink compulsively or use drugs compulsively, they see that they were able to drink a little bit and then stop, and then they don't realize that there's some point that even they might get to the point where they are compulsively drinking or using drugs.
Right.
And until you get to that level of a compulsive
I mean, it certainly
use,
wasn't
you
my
don't really know.
intention either when I started
No,
drinking.
I don't think
It was
it's
never my intention
There's only
to
a
get
few
to that
people I
place.
think I've ever met that are like, what, I really want to be a junkie,
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and they were
well,
like
that was
rock
those
stars.
commercials.
So-
Remember,
exactly.
remember those PSAs in the 80s and the 90s, and it was like nobody ever says they want to be a junkie.
Right.
I wanted to be a track star. And then they would show the guy being a heroin addict. And but anyway, so give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. And I wanted to talk about too, as I was getting out of the car tonight, we set the clocks back. And we've spoken about this a little bit, and it's dark outside a lot earlier.
Yeah.
And that depresses people. There's something about that. Especially when I was living in New York, and it would become an hour earlier.
Right.
And it was colder, it would really start
it's
affecting
seasonal
me.
affective disorder, yeah. I mean, it's a proven form of depression. So the lack of daylight, first of all, you need daylight to convert vitamin D. So a lot of people start having vitamin D deficiencies. It's something you should get checked to the doctor if you're feeling depressed. But also it can just cause depression, the lack of sunlight.
So Angela, that happens to you too? I take it?
Midwest, for sure. For sure. I felt it. I feel like I felt it last year more than ever. And I just remember getting kind of to the end of winter and just being like, oh my gosh, please make it go away. Like I can't take another day of dreary.
Well, I'm going to New York next week, and I'm going to London.
This week, you mean?
This week. Well, this week is Sunday, right? And then I'm going to London and then Edinburgh, Scotland the week after. So I'll have probably about 4 hours of daylight in the next 2 weeks.
I think you can go to the tanning bed, can't you?
I'll just keep looking in a light box all day long. So
those are, and I think sometimes issues like that, people are sometimes scared to talk about because nobody wants to come out and say, the weather it got a little darker outside and I'm feeling a little weird.
But the other thing is people blame other things for depression that's coming from seasonal affective disorder. And then a lot of them, of course, will self-medicate with alcohol, which is one of the worst things you can do because alcohol is a depressant. And
See, that's
so
what
it
I love
actually
about
makes
this
it
show
worse.
is that one of my favorite things is that I get to talk about my neuroses, and then you get to say, there's a name for it.
Yeah.
Seasonal affective disorder. And I'm like, I'm not alone.
I think that's a challenge, though, because you wouldn't necessarily connect those things. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Right.
not feeling so great. Oh, it must be because there's no sun.
Right.
You
might
wouldn't-
think it's like work or you're a relationship. And,
Right.
and
You're
that's
just
why-
feeling tired or, you
Yeah.
know.
And it happened to me in LA. There used to be a meeting I used to go to every Sunday night, and it started at 6 and it ended at 7. So I'd go in and it was beautiful outside, and then when I'd come out, it was dark, and I couldn't understand. Like I didn't enjoy the meeting, and then I realized that I stopped going to the meeting during the winter because it was having the reverse effect on me because of I'd go in and it was light, I'd come out and it was dark, and I would just feel a little little not so fresh.
You want to take a call?
Yeah, but if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. We're in the studio tonight with the most amazing interventionists of all time, the great Angela Pugh from Kansas City. She does the Kansas
and to
City.
all the other interventionists we know, you're all great too.
You know, yes, you're just.
But you're not as intimidating.
Yes,
as like,
but when you're on the show, I will pay you the same
It's
compliment.
my stature, I
It's your
think. It's
stature,
so
I think so.
intimidating.
Let's go to Dave in Salem. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Dave.
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Dave, are you there? We lost Dave.
Wow, right when we punched him.
Yeah, it's the switch in seat. It's a switch in weather why we lost Dave. But
we got another call.
yeah, so let's go to our friend in Vermont. Let's go to Heather. Heather, welcome to KLEAN Radio.
You know my number. I didn't even have to say who I was.
I have your name in front of me. You could call me Karnak tonight, though.
Yeah.
I feel Vermont.
Yeah.
Welcome, Heather.
Yeah, I definitely could, testify to the seasonal thing because,
Right,
like
Vermont.
I was talking about last week, it's just, I just want to go to bed earlier. I just,
So it's for people that Heather is from Vermont. She's sober. She's been going through struggles with her marriage. And last week she called the show and she was sick for a little bit and she hadn't been to the gym. She, was slacking on some of those things that make her feel. Isn't it an amazing thing that, what makes us feel good, we stop doing.
Right.
And then
So
we get more
true.
depressed. It's like this vicious cycle. It's like we go to the gym, one day we stop, and then we stop.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's really knowing what to do and how to prioritize your life. And one of the things I always say is like pick the 3 things you don't want to do the least and do those first thing in the morning. And that way you'd be surprised how much better
Get
the
'em
rest of
done.
your day is. You're not sitting there procrastinating all day or
It's actually
wasting
great
time.
advice.
But I say the same thing about recovery. When people are just getting into recovery, I'm like, it's just like the beginning of the year when you do your New Year's resolutions and the first 30 days, you're so on top of it and you feel
Right.
fantastic. You're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm going to do this forever.
Right.
And then at, 45 days, 60 days, maybe you're only going 3 times a week. At 90 days, you're not going at all. And it's by the wayside,
So Heather, how are you doing with your seasonal affective disorder?
well, I'm good as far as the gym is concerned.
Okay.
I went Friday, I went Saturday, I went today.
That's awesome.
So, I got back on track as far as the gym's concerned. I still haven't got back to going to any meetings or going to an Al-Anon meeting. But, hopefully I will.
don't beat
this
yourself
week.
up.
Yeah,
about that.
that's
I
the
mean,
worst thing people could do is
well, sometimes it's important just to take care of yourself. If you're feeling tired
Yeah.
and you need a rest, or if you need to take some time and exercise, and AA and Al-Anon and all these meetings, it's not something that. Well, it's important to have structure in your life and know that support's there. That shouldn't be like what is structuring your life.
and the be all end all.
Yeah, it should be your life that structures your life. I mean, most of those programs are created not to be something that you do 4 times a day, every day, and that's like your identity. They're there to actually make it possible for you to recover from this compulsive behavior of addiction and then actually be able to live a life that you're fully engaged in.
I love that you're talking about that because listen, I got sober in the 12 steps. I still go to the 12 steps and I needed it a lot my first couple of years, but the goal was a bridge back to life.
Right.
And we're really blessed in our society at this time that we have hundreds of thousands of meetings going on a week. But when the program started, they were lucky if they had a meeting a week.
Yeah.
The program was about
we're traveling long distances.
long
for
distances.
One meeting.
And really the sense was a meeting was one drunk talking to another drunk.
Right.
And it's become this social, in many ways, this lifestyle.
Well, especially in Los Angeles.
Especially in Los Angeles, but in the big cities. And it can, there's nothing wrong with going to a noon meeting. But going to a noon meeting every day for 5 years
and not getting a
and
job.
not getting a job. And you and I, and Andrew, what's funny is Andrew and I both met at a noon meeting. You know what I mean? So we're not, this isn't a knock on noon meetings. But life was a little different then. So Heather, how's the relationship stuff going?
I'm not sure. I saw my husband Columbus Day weekend, and it was good to see him, but it was also kind of awkward since we're in limbo.
Right.
And, I did get a telephone call about 4 days ago, and we have finally separated our finances. But,
Andrew's good
finances
advice.
is often what we were talking about. So he's, busy doing what he needs to do for his recovery and whatnot. But I haven't been hearing from him much, so it's like, we actually feel like there's, We are separated, you know?
You know, I think that's normal, though, especially when people are first going through recovery. They actually do have to take time to figure out who they are again, because they've been somebody else while they've been using for a long time. And often they go back to when they really started using heavily. That's sort of where they become arrested in their development as a person and in their personality and who they were as a person. And then it becomes this drinker or this drug user instead. And when they sober up, they realize they've missed a lot of years. And then they have to go back and sort of look at their identity and their sense of self and then refigure out who and what they are. So for him to be doing that is a healthy thing, and for you to give him space to do that is very special.
Yeah, I gotta say, you got to give yourself major props, Heather. For it's a hard thing you're doing, and it's a hard thing to give up control, and really give up control and have faith in the universe, faith in God, faith in whatever it is that it'll all work out one way or the other.
Yeah,
So,
he has a lot on his plate. You know, he's working full time. He's a graduate student, and he's doing recovery. And, you know,
sounds like
when
an
I
addict.
talked with him last, he's working on his 4th step. So.
Yeah, right. Well, you'll probably be hearing from him soon then.
Yeah. I'm sure I saw his resentment.
In 3 more steps, you'll be hearing from him.
Yeah. I did want to comment one more thing about
sure.
what Andrew was talking about. People who stop before they feel like they're totally out of control,
Yep.
which I could identify with because I was a binge type drinker. I never was a daily drinker, but I could go 3 to 6 weeks, between binges. But I was definitely not a normal drinker and not healthy, and I probably would have progressed if I hadn't stopped.
Yeah, I mean, binge drinking is actually the most common form of alcohol abuse in America.
And it's as dangerous.
And it's actually more dangerous in many ways because people
yeah.
don't really have tolerance.
Right.
And they haven't changed their life around alcohol. Like a lot of alcoholics are isolating. They normally drink at home or they drink at a local bar because they know they can't function any other way.
They're fitting in 3 days what I was doing for the past 8 weeks.
Right. So binge drinkers will act like they would if they weren't drinking. So they tend to get arrested or in accidents, more DWIs or DUIs, depending what state
I
you're
think
in.
they're the hardest sort of to communicate with, too, as far as getting involved in recovery, because you do feel like you have some sense of control over it because you can go
'Cause you
periods
can
of time
stop.
between,
Yeah.
right?
You can stop, but then when you're drinking, then your behavior's out of control. And that's what I always say, don't worry about this label of addiction or alcoholism. Look at the consequences of your drinking or your drug use. And are those consequences things that you can live with, or are those things, the consequences, things that are causing real problems in your life that you want to change? And when you look at that, I find that most people really start getting honest with the fact that whenever they drink or whenever they do drugs, if it's in a binge case kind of situation, that they lose control and that bad things happen to them, and they don't really want those bad things to happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the second to last time I drank, I had one drink, I got a stomach ache. I drank a second drink, I had a worse stomach ache, and then I had a third drink, and then I was like excruciating pain and doubled over, and my face was as pale as paste, and I was, felt like I couldn't breathe.
What were you drinking?
Yeah, you might have grabbed the wrong bottle.
No more rubbing alcohol for you, Heather. Heather, thank you so much for the call.
All right,
And we'll talk to you next week, next time, whenever.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's go straight into another call.
But before that, if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. Give us a call. The number is 800-522. 1-800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We're in the studio tonight with the awesomely talented Andrew Spanswick and the scary interventionist, but the awesomely talented one, Angela Pugh from
That's
Kansas
for the holiday
City.
season reference.
Yes. And let's go to Todd in Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Todd. Todd, are you there?
Todd?
Todd?
Bullets.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry
Hey,
about that, Todd. We're in different seats tonight, Andrew and I, so I'm having pushing a screen problem. So what's cooking, Todd?
Well, I'm just I have a lot of problems with metabolic syndrome. I'm like 5'10".
I don't know what that is.
76 pounds. I'm real addicted to fast food and stuff like that, and I'm taking meds that make me hungry and slow my metabolism down. And I quit, alcohol and drugs and stuff. And
What medications are you on?
Seroquel and Lamictal,
Right.
and Valium.
Okay, so two of those drugs right there are really prone to giving you weight gain and slowing down your metabolism. Seroquel in particular, but Valium as well. So I'm guessing that you had a mood disorder.
Yeah, bipolar.
Right. So the medications that you're taking are for that, and they're important. You know,
that's how I end up relapsing. Is that I want to lose weight, and I know if I quit taking my meds, that I'll lose weight. But then I start doing all my manic behaviors, and that's like a lot of consequences.
You know what? You have a psychiatrist?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd advise you go back, talk to the psychiatrist about your weight gain, because there's other mixtures of medication that might be just as effective where you won't have that same problem. It sounds like you have an underlying anxiety disorder as well, though.
Yeah, a lot of anxiety.
Right, and that's why you're on the Valium probably.
The first thing he said, though, what did you label yourself as?
Metabolic syndrome.
He's gaining weight from his medications.
Oh, okay.
So his metabolism is slowing down. And Seroquel, which is a hypnotic, and then Valium, which is a benzodiazepine or a tranquilizer, those will slow down your entire metabolic rate, and that's why you gain a lot of weight.
You know, and what he's talking about, though, it's very important, because I know a lot of people, when they're trying to get sober, it's a big fear of people's.
Well, they also eat a lot of sugar trying to compensate for the alcohol, because alcohol actually converts to sugar, and so they start getting blood sugar issues as well. And then they gain a lot of weight because they're eating. And
so a lot of people have such a fear of getting sober sometimes because of that.
Well, this is why most people smoke, right? I mean, like, you talk to a lot of people about smoking cigarettes, and they say it's vanity, not even the smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, they don't want to quit.
They just don't want to quit because they don't want to get fat. And that's a problem with our culture and our society.
Don't ask me.
But to Todd, just get back to Todd. Todd, there's some other good medications out there. You know, talk to your psychiatrist. Tell them that, you know, the possibility of you continuing to gain weight and having issues with your metabolism is making you feel like you want to stop taking your medication, and that's the worst thing that can happen. Because we know that the number one problem with people that have a mood disorder is that they tend not to take their medication, and then they do have manic fits, and then there's consequences which are much worse than the medication and gaining weight. But, you know, look at Depakote, look at lithium, and look at some other medications.
I'm allergic to lithium.
Yeah, so, well, there's Depakote, and there's a couple others out there. So
the Depakote made me gain a lot of weight, too.
Okay, well, like I said, go talk to your psychiatrist.
Todd, do you see your psychiatrist often?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
just talk to him specifically about how, you know, you feel about the weight gain, because there's other things you can do about the weight gain too, by the way.
Andrew, I want to ask you a question though. So Todd's seeing a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist has him on this and this and this and this. Now I'm not with Todd. I mean, I think it's great that he's taking. Does it help sometimes to go maybe see somebody else and see if there are changes, see if...
You know, doctor shopping is kind of dangerous. I mean, but at the same point, if you don't really trust your doctor and you don't feel like it's working, then, you know, it's always good to get a second opinion. I'm not opposed to that. But I also think it's important to find a doctor that you trust.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that with psychiatric problems and mood disorders, we have a bunch of different tools in our toolbox. And we have medications, and we have therapies, and we have different things we can do. But the reality is that it's not completely a science. It's still a little bit of an art in figuring out exactly what works for the right person. So it takes real dedication of a client working with or a patient working with the doctor over a long period of time to get everything right.
Todd, does that sound good?
Well, what do you think about, like, getting your stomach stapled or...
I'll tell you what, Todd, that's actually a great question.
You know
Hold on the line,
and we'll talk about that
we'll
when we
come
right
back to you with that with that question. If you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. We have an amazing show tonight going on. We have Angela Pugh, the interventionist to the common folk, and we have the amazingly talented Andrew Spanswick. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We will talk to you in a few seconds.
Are you or someone you care about addicted to drugs or alcohol? Addiction ruins lives and destroys families. Bring an end to the pain and suffering by calling KLEAN Treatment Centers. KLEAN has helped people from around the world break free by not only treating the addiction, but the underlying causes and providing vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean with no gimmicks and no false promises. If you need immediate assistance or just have questions, call KLEAN Treatment Centers for guidance. A much better life awaits. Now back to Andrew Spanswick and Judah Friedman.
Welcome back to KLEAN Radio. We have a great show going on tonight. We're talking about seasonal
affective disorder,
which I've come to learn is that some people this time of year, you know, it gets a little dark a little quickly, and it can have an effect on you. And I think sometimes, you know, people are going through things and they don't understand it. And it's embarrassing to say, like, who wants to say out loud, Even if they realize it's what's going on, it's getting dark and I'm feeling a little goofy.
Yeah, or a little depressed.
Or a little depressed. And I think a lot of people out there go through this. And that's one of the things we're talking about tonight. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. It's 800-222-5222. We're in the studio tonight with interventionist Angela Pugh. But before we get back to Todd, who's calling from Oregon, he has a very interesting thing he's talking about. What's the name of his thing?
He's just saying he has a metabolic disorder related to his medication, which means that basically he's gaining weight because his medication's slowing his metabolism.
Now, the reason I bring that up is because constantly we see these commercials on TV for medicine, right? And then afterwards, it's like depression medicine. And then at the end, this might cause baldness, this might cause this. And everybody, or at least I look at it and go, well, if I'm going to take a medicine, I'm going to become bald.
A lot of those are rare side effects, and that's why you need to see a doctor when you take any kind of medication. But if you were to advertise peanuts with the same type of disclosures, the list would probably be just as long. I mean, people die from peanuts every day, but nobody talks about they choke on them, they're allergic to them. So, some of that's important, some of it isn't. So
let's get back to Todd. Todd, are you there?
'Tis the season also to put like 15 more pounds on.
That's true.
That's true. But in Oregon, you're sort of lucky because you wear heavy layers. In LA, we don't have a season of putting on 10 pounds.
Yeah, everything shows.
I got moobs or whatever.
So Todd, how much do you weigh, Todd?
276. I got like double D's. They call me Todd, T-O-double-D.
I got to tell you, I got to give you major respect for actually
owning
it and joking about it.
Yeah. Well, if you're thinking about weight loss seriously, that's something you should also talk about with your psychiatrist, because to go through any sort of drastic intervention like stomach stapling or lap band or any of the other possibilities of gastric bypass, that's something that you first need to really sit down with a psychiatrist and talk about what it means, because in reality it isn't about anything other than food restriction. So you're still going to have to eat a lot less. It just makes you uncomfortable to eat. But there's a lot of people that will keep eating even though they get the surgery and they won't change their behavior.
We were talking about this yesterday.
Right, and it stretches out their intestines again in their stomach, and then they just gain weight again. So, and also what you should be really looking at is exercise and how exercise plays a part in your life.
Yeah, do you exercise at all, Todd?
Yeah, I like to exercise, but then that makes me even hungrier.
Right. Okay.
Man, he's in a vicious cycle.
Well, no, I mean, that's another issue that you need to be eating really complex carbs that take a long time to digest. So you won't get hungry like lentils or beans and rice.
Yeah.
Right. And lots of vegetables, things that it takes your body a long time to break down, and that will even out your blood sugar too for a longer period of time.
Todd, I'll tell you what, if you're interested we have a nutritionist out here. I have a nutritionist that I'm pretty close to. He lives out here. His name is David Wiss. He's a guest. He's been a friend on the show. He's a guest of the show, past guest on the show. If you want me to, if you want to send him and you could ask him some questions about nutrition, I know he'd be glad to help you out if you're interested in that.
Okay.
So
Can you give his info in a little bit so I can go get a pen?
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
We'll stick it on our Facebook page.
Yeah, we'll stick it on our Facebook page. He's been a past guest. His name is David Wiss. He's an incredible.
In fact, you can go look at the past episode on KLEANradio.com.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I see where your mind is, Todd. And Todd, listen.
Talking about beans, and he's
Todd, what is one of your favorite movies that deals with addiction and any of that stuff?
I don't Beautiful Mind.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Have you? Do you own it?
No.
Would you like a copy of that, Todd?
Yeah. I actually would like a CD if I could get one. Do you know that guy that was in? He talks on CDs. Black Flag or something like that.
Oh, Henry Rollins?
Yeah.
Yeah, Henry.
I'll tell you what.
I have a lot of spoken word stuff by Henry Rollins. I'll tell you what.
We'll send you that stuff, Todd, okay?
Okay.
All right,
just do me a favor. Email Brian at KLEANcenter.com and tell him what you want. That's Brian with a Y.
Okay.
BRYAN at KLEAN Center. That's clean with a K. Okay, Todd?
Take care, Todd.
KLEANcenter.com?
Yeah, KLEANcenter.com.
Okay, thanks a lot. Have a great night.
Thank you too.
I can't believe we just had a Black Flag reference. That's the first. Okay.
Henry
Rollins.
He's a very interesting guy, Todd. He's in a good way because he's going through these issues and he's able to laugh about it. And it's often we talk about if you go to a 12-step meeting and you hear the laughter and it's over the most. If a regular person just came into an AA meeting and heard, I got into a car crash and I survived, then everybody laughs.
Well, it's acceptance of the pain that's going on. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, oh my gosh, it's a little bit of sense of relief that you're not that strange or unusual, and that you can also live through this pain, and there's hope of recovery, and there's hope of feeling better and happy.
So if you're feeling strange tonight, like I was when I got out of my car and saw the dark, and all of a sudden Angela felt a little kooky and goofy, and I don't want to say depressed because I wasn't, because I realize now what it is. But I've been very open because I have people like you, Andrew, in my life that I'm able to say, stuff to. We had a funny conversation a couple weeks ago. We have these amazing KLEAN Radio T-shirts, and everybody loves them. They're an amazing brand. They're American apparel, but I don't fit into them too well. They're a little top heavy for me, let's just say. But everybody loves them, and they fit great. So I said to Andrew, do you have this? It feels almost like I have paint across my stomach sometimes, and I feel a little.
They're not good for if you're slightly pudgy.
Yeah, if you're doing it right. And
you gotta wear a bigger size, and then the sleeves go down past your elbows.
That's exactly right. So Andrew and I are gonna have. So I was a little embarrassed, but the second I said it to Andrew, he's like, "Yeah, me too." I have issues with these shirts, and but I got it out there, and I wasn't scared to talk about this little insecurity of mine, because a lot of these little insecurities, Andrew, could cause a big issue.
Yeah, let's take another call because they're lining up.
Let's go to Amy in Vancouver, Washington. Welcome back to KLEAN Radio, Amy.
Thanks for waiting so long, Amy.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to call in really quick, and I'm just coming in at the end of the show. I heard Andrew's voice and I heard Judah's voice, and so I wanted to update you both. Going back from the Robert Ressler episode, when you guys were encouraging me to start a support group, start going to a support group due to my past violent situation and the alcohol that I used for the coping method. And I just wanted to let you know that I have entered into a counseling program with a qualified psychologist, that I'm just going to go through the grieving process of all of the issues that went along with, the domestic violence and his smoking marijuana and everything. And I'm also, that's also going to lead into getting involved in the 12-step program. So I wanted to just give you both kudos for giving me the encouragement from not knowing who I am and seeing my face, but believing in me and validating me. I just wanted to let you know that I am going forward.
Well, thank you so much.
That's amazing,
that
Amy.
means a lot.
It does. It really, it.
I mean, obviously I own KLEAN Treatment Centers along with a couple of partners, and it is what I do for a living. But the real reason I do this is because I've always had concern for the mentally ill and people with addictions, and I've been, spending my life helping people. And so to be able to hear a story like that just makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. And keep us updated, Amy. It's really important because you're going to find you're going to find a community of people like you, and all of a sudden you're not going to feel alone. And I'd love to hear that message, because so many people need to hear that. So many people are scared sometimes.
It's very scary for me to call in the first time.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is to say, what the hardest thing for somebody going through a problem is? Saying I have a problem.
Right.
It's the hardest thing. It's the 500.
Especially if you're not really sure what the problem is.
Right.
And you're like confused.
Well, the mental illness thing, the label.
Yeah. Oh, it's
I had a really hard time owning that.
It's very hard.
Well,
it really was.
The thing that you should be aware of is that over 50% of Americans in their lifetime will have a problem with either major depression or severe anxiety. Mm-hmm. So that means over half of us are going to have mental illness at some point in our lives. And then on top of that, you figure everybody has at least two members, so, that have had mental illness issues. So this is something that everybody's dealing with every day almost. if not personally, with family members or friends. And it's amazing to me how stigmatized it still is when it's so prevalent.
It's the same thing with addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, I swear everybody on the planet is connected to addiction in some way. Somebody they know
Yeah, it's
for
at least,
themselves,
I mean,
and it's that
minimally, it's
stigma
12%
too.
of the population. So that's,
Right.
So
I was addicted actually to coffee and caffeine as far as like hot chocolate, because during this whole thing that happened to me, and then, I mean, I don't want to go into all the details, but he did torture me at night, and I thought it had something to do with the marijuana.
Right.
And I was just drinking coffee and hot cocoa because it was keeping me awake, and I had to actually come off of the caffeine.
Amy, that's another perfect example of someone who's self-medicating and trying to find a way to fix their lives with a substance instead of actually seeing the real problem, which was that you were being abused and you shouldn't have been abused.
And you needed that stuff to get you to where you were able to get to, which is to get help.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, Amy, listen, here's the thing. Let's not call it mental illness for you. Let's call it a head vacation. And that's what you tell people.
That's what my counselor is saying.
Yeah, it's like when you say this, just take away the words.
You know what also, Amy, the tough thing is that, when you've been a victim of domestic violence, is that it can go away and everything can seem fine. And then for just some reason, it can be like it's all right there again. So I just wanted you to keep in the back of your mind when you feel like it's all coming back, just remember it gets less and less over time. And just to go back to the people that you feel comfortable with, or, call us or whatever.
Yeah.
And
one of
check back in.
the things that I would say, just to kind of put a cap on all of it, is that I'm becoming now the person that I was intended to be, years ago.
That's great.
That I'm getting back to who I'm supposed to be rather than who I was told to be.
Your authentic self.
You're finding your true identity.
That's
Right.
amazing. I say that all the time in recovery too. Like, it really has allowed me to become the person I always wanted to be, but I had no idea how to be.
to get there.
Yeah, you had no idea how to get there.
I mean, it sounded really good, but I had no idea how to be that
person. Now I can tell
person.
a joke and remember the punchline.
Right. And you know what? Sometimes one day,
Instead of being the punchline.
Yeah.
Instead of being
Right.
the punchline, yeah.
And it's like, it's amazing, Amy, if somebody told you a week or two ago that you'd be laughing about this stuff, you probably would have thought they were nuts. And you would have gotten upset. But now it's like you could laugh a little bit. And
Right.
it's amazing. Amy, listen, call us back anytime and just keep us in the loop of how it's going.
I will.
Okay,
I
Amy?
will. Thank
Take
you
care,
so
Amy.
much. You've been a part of saving my life. So
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the hard work.
That was Amy in Vancouver, Washington. And if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We're in the studio tonight with an amazing interventionist. And I'm going to tell you why I say this. We're in an industry, and Andrew's in it, that isn't always filled with sometimes the most scrupulous people. And one of the things that's great about Andrew, and I'm not saying this because we're friends or any of that stuff, is he actually cares. And sometimes in this industry, it's hard to find people that genuinely care, that a client isn't a money, isn't a dollar sign. And tonight, and I say that about Angela. Angela is an interventionist, and she does an amazing job, and she deserves to be paid, but she just doesn't charge as much as most. And that's not because she doesn't value herself. And I think a lot of times people put, they think, oh, if you charge 10 grand, you're somehow valuing yourself, but that's not it. You're just not here to take advantage of people.
Absolutely.
And you go above and beyond helping people, and you put people in the right facilities, and it's not always clean. You put people in facilities where you believe that they should be.
Yeah, I try to put people where I think they can get the absolute maximum amount of help for the type of person that they are in the whatever myriad of issues they're dealing with.
And you're an honest person in a not always honest world. And I that's why, if people are out there listening, that's why I say Angela's an amazing interventionist, and she doesn't look like a biker.
Yeah, well, it was from, I have to just say, it was earlier in the green room before the show. Angela was saying that somebody wanted her for an intervention, but they waited a long time before calling her because they were scared like a biker would show up in the room.
Yes. And she does own a bike, which is, you know,
she's like a little blonde bunny.
Yeah.
She's like,
who drives a motorcycle, but she drives a motorcycle, Andrew.
She does drive a motorcycle?
She drives a motorcycle.
I did not know that.
And so they weren't that far off.
It's a bunny mobile. Huh?
And so that's why I'm saying these nice things about Angela Pugh. It's not just because she's in the studio, and it's not just because I call her a friend. It's because I actually believe in what she does, because she's an advocate. And sometimes people out there, families sometimes do need help, because, Andrew, families aren't trained to do this stuff.
I mean, there's definitely a need for professional help and all these things. Let's take another call.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio, but let's get to Fred in Portland, Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Fred.
Yeah, I'm here.
How's it going, Fred?
My sobriety date is 6/25 of 2001.
That's amazing, Fred.
And I finally have celebrated 12 years without a drink.
That's great.
That's very good.
My drug of choice was Johnny Walker Red Label Scotch.
Well, I'm sure that Johnny Walker appreciated that.
I'm sure he appreciates that plug.
As well as the Kennedy family who gets $1 a bottle.
I followed that for 30 years.
Oh, Fred, can you do us a favor? Can you turn off the radio in the background?
I'll have to hang up, but that's all right.
Okay.
Okay, Fred.
Hey, Fred, congratulations on 12 years, and congratulations on getting rid of Johnny there as your friend.
But you know, it's very funny. Fred, are you still there?
He's gone.
You know, it's really funny, though, as he's talking about it. You know, he says Johnny Walker Red, and, you know, because there's different levels.
Right.
And, you know, I remember when I got sober in this meeting in New York, and I remember these people were talking about, like, they hit a bottom. And they knew the bottom was because they were drinking this certain type of wine. And I remember hearing this going, that was a good wine to me. That was
quality.
Like, I was like, that's...
Do you know Judah's dating technique? I mean, he's in a relationship now, which is just amazing that he's got this girlfriend that's like way above him. But his dating technique is when he would go out with someone, he would take them to the cheapest restaurant on the first date and see how they reacted, because then he said there was nowhere to go but up.
That's right. And let me tell you, for dating advice tip of the night,
you have to set that standard low.
He said it really low.
Yeah,
me. I mean, it's like
not with Melissa. We went to Hugo's, but I broke the rule, and it worked. No, but
maybe your intentions were better there.
Here's the thing about dating. Everybody likes to take somebody on the first date to an expensive restaurant, right? Because, you know, for whatever reasons, I could think of a few. But here's the thing, where do you go after? Let's say you go to the most expensive restaurant on the first night. What's France next? Okay, so you set the bar a little lower. You go to Johnny Rockets on the first date. You get along? You know, you could go up to a $16 dinner. It's progressive moving up.
That's right.
Are people still going to dinner on their first date? I feel like
you're the
like
single one in the bunch, right?
It's like coffee now. You always, because nobody wants to commit to an entire dinner.
Like together.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
It's like not so much like one-on-one, but Judah's old school.
I'm old school. I'm an old school.
Very old school.
Yeah.
He starts with coffee. All right, not Starbucks the first time.
Yeah,
we gotta find
McDonald's.
Right. Let's go. We're not going to McDonald's. We're going for a McCafe. And we've given so many props tonight to different companies. We have Johnny Walker Red.
I don't know if either of those companies are happy about it.
Well, you know what? Johnny Rockets could be the new great first date joint. And you know what it is, because you have so many expectations sometimes, and guys do this.
So if you break up with your girlfriend and you go out on a date and you take them to Johnny Rockets, they should feel okay about it.
Let me tell you something. Not that that's happening, but it's a hypothetical that I don't feel like answering. But
could you take your girlfriend back to Johnny Rockets?
Yeah, my girlfriend is so low maintenance in a good way.
I don't know how you score
but a good low maintenance. It's not bad low maintenance. It's good low maintenance.
No, it is. Yeah.
It's
just such a miracle. I can't believe it.
You know, God works in mysterious, good miracles ways.
That's even beyond.
It's
God,
a true miracle. It's a true miracle of sobriety. You know, I'm going to tell you something. If you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio, and we're joking, but these are all things that in my wildest dreams, if you would have told me 15 years ago, some change, that these things would happen. And Angela, I'm sure you're in a very similar boat. You have an amazing,
without a doubt,
you have an amazing life, and I've heard part of your story, and it's rough.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's, I was just talking about this the other day, that I just have really, truly been blessed with everything since my sobriety. And I had no idea when I got sober, my whole life kind of fell into place. And I never expected that. I just knew I couldn't drink anymore.
Right.
I didn't know that all of a sudden out of that I would find my path and my journey in life, which, I had always questioned and had no idea what I was meant to do. And, since I got sober, it just all fell into place. It's amazing how it works out.
And I think the people out there that are struggling, that are going through this, you can't see your way out of this. We get it. And if you're a family member, we know it's impossible. It's impossible as you're watching somebody kill, when people call you up for interventions.
Well, I think also when people have gone through treatment and it hasn't worked the first few times, or the first time, and then they start giving up hope, and that can be very frustrating.
It's so discouraging. I think the whole process is so discouraging. And with families, they're watching somebody struggle with active addiction, and it can get really ugly, as we all know. It can get really ugly. And
it brings up a lot of anger.
It gets so big, but the problem gets so big that nobody knows where to start. You don't even know what direction to maybe take a first step to try to solve the problem,
Well, that's why there's great interventionists like you that can actually go out there and help families figure it out, because it's a tough thing. And, regular doctors don't know really how to deal with this stuff. But there's a lot of trained professionals that do family work and work with
I actually had a social worker in the emergency room several weeks ago told my client to start taking her Klonopin again because that's how the doctor prescribed it.
Oh.
It's just
right.
baffling.
What's amazing though is that I love that we're talking about this stuff, because I really do believe you could change stuff with dialogue. Andrew, you were on the phone with your mom, and I heard the conversation. You're talking about Norexil. Is that how you pronounce it?
Naltrexone.
Naltrexone. Okay, so we both can't say it, but Angela's the only one that can. But did you ever think your mom would be talking about, like stuff like that?
I don't think my mom really ever thought you would be talking about it, far less me thinking that she would be talking about it.
And that's how cool.
But it's interesting that she finds it so interesting all of a sudden. While before she probably would have just ignored it as, people that do drugs are evil, and I'll ignore them, and now she's actually thinking about, from public health policy perspective, whether or not this type of intervention will help people or not.
Right.
And I think when you see all the mentally ill people shooting people, and we've had this rapid onslaught of mental illness and shooting, and really a crisis in our society. And my mom goes, these people don't really have a violence and gun problem as much as they have mental health problems. I mean, every single one of them. And why is nobody talking about that enough? So.
And by the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. We're running out of time.
We have time for one more call.
We have time for one more call. But give us a call at 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Let's go to Ann in Salem, Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Ann.
Hi.
Is it Ann?
It is.
Okay.
I wanted just a quick comment, because I know you are near the end of the program. Your program was kind of speaking to me, and this is only my third time listening to you guys, so I think it's fortuitous that I happened to turn on the radio. I also have the seasonal affective disorder, suffer from a lot of depression, also, the flip side, the anxiety, have a lot of post-traumatic stress. I'm a binge drinker, but with many years in between binges.
Mm-hmm. So when was your last binge?
Probably 6 months ago, and I had been sober for 7 years.
Okay.
And then I spent 6 weeks just on my head, totally isolated and drinking in my home. I was diagnosed just about 2 years ago with adrenal cancer. And I thought, okay, this is what has been causing it. But I don't really think that that's what's caused it. I think,
Well, what causes binge drinking is drinking. So,
right. Wow, that was profound.
That was profound, and that made sense.
When people are addicted and they drink too much or they do drugs, they often look for any possible reason that could explain it, other than the fact that that they have an underlying compulsive
disorder. It's my spouse. It's my job.
Right.
I mean, when I would go to rehabs and they used to go and they'd give you that little test, I would always pray, please label me mentally ill.
Well, even if you're self-medicating, we've been talking about that a lot tonight. Even if you're self-medicating for, say, seasonal affective disorder or bipolar illness, the compulsive use of a substance to the point where it's damaging you beyond even the original symptoms of the problem you're trying to self-medicate shows you that you have a problem. And that's not an effective solution. Like, nobody's ever going to get better by doing cocaine.
Right.
Right? Like, cocaine is not, we know that cocaine has no medicinal value unless you're using it for eye surgery temporarily. You know, if you're going to start using cocaine, you're taking a big risk. And, you know, alcohol is just as dangerous. I mean, you know, statistically, more people are dying from the use of alcohol than from cocaine by a huge quantity.
It's amazing, though, because you know, I was a drinker, and I constantly find myself saying, I just drank, you know, like
that's
somehow,
not so bad.
right,
somehow.
right,
Yeah.
because it's regulated and we therefore think that it's safe.
But it's also, I feel like,
I
because
remember when I found out that alcohol caused cancer, and I was in disbelief. I'm like, why would they sell something that causes cancer? And you know,
and what are we going to do? What are we going to do to help you?
Well, I guess what part of my major concern at this point, because I did have a reality check that you know, the binge drinking has been going on far longer than the cancer ever has.
right?
But I also have cancer in a variety of other places. I've got, like, you know, a bunch of tumors. And, you know, they're increasing medication, increasing pain meds. And that's of great concern to me.
Are they benign, or you have malignant cancer at this point? Or
Most of them are benign. However, there's one in the adrenal gland that appears to be malignant, but have a very large benign one in the liver, which presses on the rib cage, so it's
painful.
Extremely painful. And the notion of becoming addicted to a drug, you know, and I am old school, and I don't think of alcohol as a drug, so which it is. I mean, I know it is, but.
Well, my answer might surprise you here. My answer might surprise you here on this issue because, you know, my answer really might surprise you on this issue because, and this is, most people don't really think about these things, but you actually have to start figuring out really what your health is going to be like and how it's going to progress until you die. And that sounds very morbid and awful, but there's a reality to it. And most of these drugs that are being abused, like Oxycotin, were created for people that have cancer that eventually are going to have terminal cancer. And they serve an important role in controlling pain and making the quality of life acceptable for those that are dying of an illness. The issue is if people abuse them or take them when it inhibits them from either getting better if they have a positive outcome and there's a real good chance that they're going to get better, or they're not far enough along in the progression of an illness that it's necessary to really take it. So that's some real harsh sort of like reality check information.
Okay, and the Oxycotin is what they have just bumped me up onto as of about 3 months
That
ago.
drug was actually developed specifically for cancer patients. So because it has a bad reputation out on the street, and it's a very powerful drug, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's one of the most powerful opioids we know, but it was developed specifically for people that have cancer and cancer pain. And I actually think it's a crime when doctors don't prescribe it to people that have the illness that it was actually created for.
And I wish we weren't running out of time, because this is actually a very it's an important topic to talk about. So can you do us a favor, Ann? Give us a call back next week.
Well, I absolutely will.
The show starts
I'll try to call back a little earlier.
Yeah, please try to call back a little earlier. We always get the best calls of the night as we're running out of time.
Well,
we had amazing calls, but we always we don't have enough time to spend on all the calls at the end of the night. So, Ann, please call back next week.
I absolutely will.
Thank you so much for the call,
Take
Ann.
care.
And
Wow,
if you
we are out of time.
We are out of time. I want to thank Angela Pugh for coming to the studio tonight.
Thank
Most
you, Angela.
amazing
Thank you so much, you guys.
interventionist.
Always a pleasure. I love coming
And
on.
Andrew, good luck in New York this week.
And she's a biker, but she's not a tattooed big.
And yes,
I'm not
biker.
scary.
I want to thank
She's not scary.
I want to thank everybody out there listening. Everybody, all our fans. I want to thank Steve, Maisa. I want to thank Patrick.
And
Thank
everybody
you all.
out there, our fans, really take care of yourselves.
Don't lose faith, and give us a call at 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. The discussion continues at KLEANRadio.com.
Are you or someone you care about addicted to drugs or alcohol? Addiction ruins lives and destroys families. Bring an end to the pain and suffering by calling KLEAN Treatment Centers. KLEAN has helped people from around the world break free by not only treating the addiction, but the underlying causes and providing vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean with no gimmicks and no false promises. If you need immediate assistance or just have questions, call KLEAN Treatment Centers for guidance. A much better life awaits.